So I'm going to be doing a few videos on Native American culture. And when you talk about Native American culture, it's important to realize that there are so many different tribes, different affiliations, different cultures involved in that. So I myself am from the Great Plains. I'm from the Assiniboine tribe. I was born on the Fort Peck Reservation. As you can see here, there are two chiefs symbolizing the two peoples on the Fort Peck Reservation, the Assiniboine and the Sioux. And they have similar languages, but other than that, we traditionally were enemies. Um, so the Sioux call themselves the Lakota, and the Assiniboine call themselves the Nakota, um, and that basically just means people. Both of those words mean people, but you can see already there's slight differences: Lakota, Nakota. Um, anyway, so even within my own reservation, there's various tribes represented there, various cultures. And as you go out into the rest of the United States, there are more than 560 federally recognized tribes, and even more than that on a state level that are recognized by state governments, but not necessarily by the federal government. And that's not even including the tribes in Canada and the indigenous peoples of Mexico and even further down into South America. So when we're talking about Native Americans, all of those indigenous people fall into that, and there's so many different cultures involved with that. And the one thing that I want to make sure that any person that tries to understand Native American cultures understands is that they're all different. And there are a few similarities. There are a few things that fall under that pan Native American culture umbrella. That would be things like powwows. Pretty much every tribe in the United States and in Canada and even down into Mexico, they participate in powwows, celebrations. Even though that tradition stems from the Great Plains, where those people had very hard lives. They were nomadic. They would move around, and come the end of winter, it was a big deal if you survived the winter, especially up in the northern parts of the plains, where it's very cold, very frigid, and the winter is a very hard and trying time for them. So they started having these powwows, these celebrations, and in my traditional language, it's called wachibi. It's just dance. It's a celebration of that the fact that you, your friends, your families made it through the winter. And other things, there were other celebrations, other reasons to dance, other than just that, making it through the winter. A few other things that fall into that pan Native American culture umbrella is the music involved with powwows. A lot of it is accompanied by drums, and so I've got a drum here. This is just a hand drum. You see, it's just a little bit smaller than my torso. This is actually kind of a small hand drum. There are hand drums that are bigger. There are also hand drums that are smaller. It's up to personal preference and what you're going to be using it for. And then in the powwow circuit, there are bigger drums, powwow drums, that they sit on the floor or on a stand. And you usually have anywhere between 3 and up to 8 or 12 people sometimes sitting in a circle around that drum, and they're all drumming at the same time. And the one thing that most people think of when they're thinking of Native Americans and drums is this drum beat that has been popularized by Hollywood, and it goes a little like this. And honestly, you're never going to hear a Native American do that in any situation other than explaining that is not a real drum beat that Native Americans use. A more common drum beat or a more realistic and traditional drum beat sounds like this. And if you can hear the difference, it's that there's no accented beat. In Western music, they love to have accented beats on the downbeat, what they call the downbeat, the beginning of a measure. Their music is subdivided into many different measures, and they love to have that downbeat. But in Native American music, we don't have it subdivided like that. It's just this is just the heartbeat that keeps everything moving. And we do believe that, or we teach that the drum was given to us by Mother Earth to act as her heartbeat, and we have that very close connection with Mother Earth. And so all of those things, all of those things can fall into that pan Native American culture. But then you get into specific cultures within that, specific tribes and cultures, and you'll find that they have different forms, different song forms. Even though they use the drum, they have different song forms, different ways of creating their songs, different words that they use. The languages are so diverse, um, and so if there's one takeaway you get from this, it's that Native Americans are not all one group. And then even within tribes, you'll find individuals that feel differently about certain subjects, as opposed to their neighbors or the rest of the tribe. One hot topic is whether or not it's racist to have a Native American as a mascot. The Washington Redskins, um, Kansas City Chiefs. Whether or not that's racist, and people will try to go to the source. They go to Native Americans and say, "Does this offend you?" And many Native Americans will say, "Yeah, that offends me." And personally, I don't feel like my culture should be someone's mascot. But then you'll ask other Native Americans, they're like, "No, it doesn't offend me." And that's perfectly fine. We're all individuals, just like you don't agree with every opinion that somebody in your country or in your culture has. It's the same way with Native Americans. We don't have one consensus. We don't meet once a year to say, okay, what are we gonna agree on throughout the rest of this year. We all have our own opinions, and so just remember that as you study Native Americans, you're gonna find out that it's not it's not quite so simple as you might like it to be. Um, so that'll be the end of this video, and I'll talk some more about some other aspects of Native American culture as we go forward.